I've had some time to think about it, let it settle. Let's talk about it. The Stadia Keynote. See my rant as I asked, did Stadia Keynote provide what gamers needed? It's SDO Daily, baby. Let's get into this one. What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K of SDO Daily and StadiaDosage and PNTS Network, all of that. Welcoming you to another SDO Daily. Can you do us a huge favor before we get into this one? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please, so you know when we're dropping these doses. We appreciate all of y'all. Straight up, you know the deal, you know the reason, and by now y'all should know the slogan. What is it? We are not too proud to ask. All right. So let's get into my rant. I want to talk to Stadia Keynote 2022. So the big question that's being asked in the community is, did this keynote do what gamers needed to do? And our question is being asked because a lot of people coming from this keynote said, I don't even know why this was marketed to gamers, because I don't walk away from this thing feeling satisfied at all. It provided me nothing of what I was looking for. All right. And to answer that question, I think you have to take into consideration why they did market this one to gamers more so than the last one, which I feel that the last one was a little bit more groundbreaking, and this more was like a continuation of some of the groundbreaking long-term things they talked about last one, right? But remember, Google told you that, or Stadia told you, that this was a direct result, as far as them marketing it to gamers, a direct result of gamers asking for this. If you remember at the beginning of the year, they queried gamers, through polls and through the Stadia blog, what is it that you want to see from us? And I think on the heels of the Business Insider article that made it sound like the Stadia was closing tomorrow, and that they took all the money from Stadia and only left $5 on the dresser, you know what I mean? That I feel like a lot of people like myself wanted to hear long-term goals. So what they did is, I feel like they may have reformatted and created a Stadia Keynote specifically around these subsect presentations that they were doing there to explain to gamers what is it that they were going to do long-term for Stadia retail. Because that's what people wanted to know. They wanted to know, look, I'm investing into this thing. Is it going to still be around? Do you still plan to bring games? What are your plans to improve and enhance this? And my thing is that I feel like with the keynote and the different things that they've presented, that they did do that. How well they did that, I'll get into that in a little bit. But there's definitely pros and cons to this. And we'll start off with the pros. All right. So first and foremost, I think they did right by showing initiatives that will reach beyond 2022. And those initiatives were the tool set, I forgot the name of it, but the tool set branding that shows you that, hey, look, we're all about enhancing how well and how easy and how simplified it is for people to bring games to our platform and hopefully bring them in droves, right? So them putting branding around that exercise, that tool set, is fantastic, okay? And to know that there's already people that have brought games over, even some people who, brought a game over. I believe MotoGP 2020 was a day and date launch. Then all of a sudden it just disappeared into oblivion. And to hear now that MotoGP 21, even though it came late, came courtesy of the new developer tools, as you see them talking about it on the screen right now, that is refreshing. Now, I've tried MotoGP 21, you know what I'm saying? And I have yet to bump it up against MotoGP 20. But the low change porting, as they call it, that you can see on the screen, has provided a smooth experience. And I want to visually compare it to MotoGP 2020 before I come up with my final analysis, so stay tuned for that. But if this resulted in the makers of MotoGP to say, you know what, prior, because of all of the complications of developing for Stadia at this specific time, we don't want to do it. But now with the new tool sets, hey, we can do it because it's easy, and this is the result. This is great even for the beginning, I'm telling you. And I'll have more on that later when I do my full analysis of MotoGP. But the signs look great already. So showing those initiatives, showing the click to play initiatives that they're going to further enhance and roll out with developers, you know, and rehashing those monetary gains that developers can get by being part of their Stadia Pro affiliate program and other things like that. Those are long-term investments towards long-term growth. So I think they did very well there. Then there's also the demos. Wow, the demos went up from a half an hour to 60 minutes. The first one is Risk of Rain. And then there's still the other demos that are out there, the click to play demos, and you don't have to have a Stadia account in order to try that. You're making this stuff doesn't happen for free. These are investments, and these are things that you have not seen Stadia do as of yet, and they're increasing upon that. So to say that they are not investing in retail and all of their focus is going on to the business to business section, that was just disproven. And we can tell so tangibly in our hands for the simple fact that now we're going to start seeing longer demos. We already got one out there now, Risk of Rain, and now you don't need an account in order to do so. Those type of things take further investment. And I'm here to tell you, just off of personal knowledge, that the whole Business Insider 80-20 number that they try to throw out there to get you to gasp, that's malarkey. Now, Stadia is actually showing you its malarkey piece by piece by each initiative that they roll out. All right. And then they're making enhancements to the Stadia retail store. Again, you don't make these enhancements if you're not looking for long-term growth. All right. So those are the pros. You know, I think they did well there. I also think they did well in being transparent on what were the problems and why they kind of had to make a pivot, not a pivot to all business to business as some of these entities want you to believe, but they did have to make a pivot because they ran into some problems. And it sounds like that the main problem was the bottleneck of the development or the porting process to the platform. And they're fixing that as soon as they can. And it's not a process that's going to fix itself overnight, but it requires investment, and hopefully they realize the extra investment power that they have, not only from SG&E being closed down, but from the extra investment that Stadia made into the business to business and the retail. See, I can only speak to the retail investment that they made. I don't know what they made to business. So and there's no guarantee that they made any extra investment to business than what was already earmarked from since what they were talking about in 2019. They talked about the business to business in 2019 when Phil Harrison sat on the couch with Jeff Keighley at E3 2019. He talked about it then. So some of these publications like Ars Technica that are out here babbling about, oh, they never changed, they never had plans to make this change. We don't know that. We don't know if the rate that the business to business is growing or being marketed was the rate that they planned for all along. All we know is that SG&E closed down and resources were diverted. But what I can tell you that I know significantly about is that resources were definitely diverted towards retail, and more so in the form of reshaping these development tools. I mean, there's great sub videos here talking about the profiling. That stuff is just amazing. The new profiling tools and the enhanced ones that are going to make development and catching issues easier. And it's brought all home in the Stadia Venture video where they're showing you how somebody ran into an issue developing, particularly on Unity, and how they used the profiling tools to figure it out, and they got it fixed and they got it running, and they gave you some problem solving tips in order to do it. All that stuff was starting to come home in the messaging in the keynote and beyond. So all amazing stuff to see, and the bottleneck of the development they're being transparent about. I think that's a good thing, and that gives people the full breadth of how big and the full scope of how big of a bottleneck the development was and how much effort it's going to take to fix that. And that effort is tagged to what? Investment. So those are my pros. As far as cons, I don't think that we've seen the development toolkit's footprint enough. I know they showed 9 people there, and again, I know I just said that it's going to take a lot of investment and effort to get that fixed, to get that working. But I think something that gamers, even though they appreciate them working on this, I think what gamers want to see is they want to see results. So we want to see, all right, great, you're fixing this, but what are the games? Well, not necessarily the games, but what are the people that are who are the people that are utilizing this? You know what I'm saying? And as far as the people utilizing it, there are some interesting names that they presented. It's cool knowing that the devs of MotoGP have used it, and there's great results behind it. I can attest to because I played it myself. But with that said, people want to see some more names. They want to see if Take-Two's up there. They want to see if Ubisoft is going to start using this in depth and some other things. And even if they don't want to announce their games, I think it's smarter and better in the long run for Stadia to show their partners that are going to be that are at least tinkering around with this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can say it as, definitive, you can say that, this partner has definitely got games. These partners are looking into the tool set and, get some people to talk about it. That gives gamers some clarity. So I think that was kind of missing, and that would have helped. I think the playtesting track or video was mislabeled, even though I get it. This is a summit for developers, so you wanted them to get the playtesting part out of it all. But again, you did market this to gamers, and I still think that you could have reached your main demo for this, which was developers, by calling it game development, including playtesting on Stadia, because that took you again from the nooks and crannies of the bottleneck to how they've improved it overall, not just with playtesting. So they sold themselves short on that title. They sold themselves so short that I thought everything else would be more important, and I bumped that one to the last, and here that one really was the most important one. It should have been the first one that I watched. You know what I mean? So I think the labeling of that one really didn't do itself any justice, and hopefully, Stadia realizes the power and that type of stuff, not only with the devs, but with gamers as well. Being transparent, here was our problems, here's how we're fixing it, that's powerful stuff. But also, with all this great information out there, this is a developers conference, so we got to remember that. So with that being said, there's a lot of nerd babble that's out there that's going to confuse people and make some people fall asleep. Now, I adore this nerd babble, but a lot of people won't, and they're going to miss out on some great stuff. So as you see here on the screen, this is a summary of the keynote, but those individual Stadia videos, I think there needs to be summaries of those, a 10-minute summary altogether of all that stuff. And I think they did something like that last year, where they summarized not only the keynote, but all the finer points that are in those videos. They need to do the same thing here. this will really drive it home for gamers, and they need to put it on the Stadia YouTube channel. I was a little surprised to see that even this video, which is a great one, wasn't on the Stadia YouTube channel. But I'm hopeful that they'll do that and they'll fix that for these videos. Or for this one that exists, and I hope they create another one that is a summary of all the great stuff, you know, from beginning to end, starting with the play testing, even though it was mislabeled, in my opinion, starting the play testing on Stadia video, moving on maybe to profiling, and then to the Stadia Ventures thing. And then you can do the Windows emulation last, because the Windows emulation, even though the media clung to that one, that's just on something that's experimental and nothing that seems like it's around the corner anytime soon. All right. With that said, I think my overall score, based upon, again, it providing to gamers that ask about long-term probability of this platform and viability. Those are the gamers they were reaching out to. Every presentation can't be a silver bullet. This is a developers conference, and it wasn't, you know, again, I think they worded perfectly, a lot of user end stuff. But if you want to take a peer behind the veil and see what we're doing to build this thing up long term, here goes some ways that we're going to try to summarize it for you so it's digestible for the gamer, but again, show you in the long run that we're here for the long term. Okay, so for that attempt, I think they did well, and I think my overall score is a B. Now I know that there's people out there that are like, well, on the development front, I want to see Stadia 2.0 and Gen 2.0. I know we were all excited. We were jumping out of our shoes and socks about Stadia Gen 2.0. We don't want to, now that the bottleneck and the issues with bringing games to Stadia and why we were having these performance problems that we were starting to really see in 2021, why now that that's more transparent, I think with the added knowledge that we have, we gotta act smarter and push our desires for any upgraded hardware to the back burner until they fix the more important thing, which is porting to the platform altogether. It doesn't matter how much quote unquote headroom you have if the porting process itself is not desirable. They're not going to maximize that new hardware. They're just going to do the bare minimum. And you may see like an extra frame or two, you know, one blade of grass might be a little bit sharper. But if the porting process, the development process is too cumbersome, it's going to be even worse, because now it's going to make Stadia look weak because you talked about this upgraded hardware and it's not being utilized. And it's going to look like, well, it's not as powerful as you made it seem to be. So I think what we got to do is we got to grow with the knowledge that we've been given and realize that the development tool set is something to be placed on the back burner. With that said, do I think that this was perfect for all gamers? No, it was targeted for a specific type of gamers. There are gamers that want more, and I understand them, and understandably so. I think there's still more to do for gamers who want to see a connect, who want to see an array of the games and presentation style that are coming to the platform. I get that these are the early years, but again, these are some gamer expectations. So, you know, I get it. Also, they want to know what the big plans are for AAA games. I get that the development toolkit can lead to AAA games development, making it easier and coming to the platform, but it hasn't been said so specifically. I mean, it was said so last year, but we kind of haven't heard the term AAA games this year. So that's something that I think needs to be reconnected and refocused on in your verbiage to assure gamers that, okay, even though we may not be able to bring them in droves, that's our long-term plan, and gamers are concerned about the state of AAA games coming to the platform this year. Is it going to be less than what it was before, or is it going to be the same? I think if it's going to be the same, you benefit by letting people know. Well, you benefit by letting people know either way, but I wouldn't hold it close to my vest if it's going to be the same or more, So I think there needs to be more messaging on that. And they want to know, as a sole platform, what's the plans for expanding the product and growing the player base? Even if we get these games, we realize that, it's hard to find game matches in certain instances unless there's cross play and all that other stuff. And for a non-main platform like Stadia is at the moment, it's the early years. Okay. They may not want to do cross-play. They may not want to make the extra development towards it or whatever. So we got to grow the user base. What Stadia's plans for growing the user base and ensuring that, people, that this problem is alleviated over time. You know what I'm saying? So those are the three things. Even though I think they did well, those are three things that I think they could address. Again, the Connect. What's the plan for big AAA games, and what's the plan for growing a user base? And again, you ain't got to do it right now, but at least give us your plans. And those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Because like I always say, who cares what I think? But if you did like what I had to say, check out the links below to follow me. They'll lead you to the Broadband Bullies, PTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, and yes, the Stadia Dosage. With all that said, peace. Have a wonderful gaming day.